Aloha Com 110 class. It's Brother Compton again. My apologies for not getting this video up earlier. I've been sick the last few days and just realized that I needed to get this done. I'm still a bit under the weather and at home, but I wanted to get this video posted, it being late. We'll extend the due date for your video on on barbecue area till Wednesday evening, which is Thanksgiving Eve, so hopefully you'll get it done before then. And sorry for the barking dog over at the neighbor's house, but I'm on the back lanai of our home here in Laie. Just a word about and the rooster. Sorry about that also. Just a word about barbecue area and the transition we're making, a very brief transition we're making in the course right now. As you have seen from the movie Crash, or from your own analysis of ethnocentrism, the nature of culture and intercultural communication, that is, the intersection of different cultural groups, tends to be one embedded in conflict. It's always conflicted because cultures are different from each other. And so there's different beliefs, different attitudes, different ways of making meaning, different ways of behaving and enacting the world that we're surrounded by, that we live in. That was certainly the case with culture. You remember the poem, I Am a Door, and how the conflict or the differences between two cultures for that Indian student are located within the individual. Anytime we move towards bilingualism or biculturalism, we do live in a more conflicted space. It is the long history of the world for us to live within these conflicts. The question is really one of, is it going to be, are the conflicts going to be constructive, or are they going to be destructive? If they're destructive, what we'll have is groups of people coming at each other and crashing into each other, like we've said before. What we want, of course, is a harmony, a coming together. But given the nature of culture and the nature of humankind, what usually ends up happening is we get these crashes until one group, kind of submits, or one group submits to the force of the other, and one group takes the dominant position in this relationship. Now, from here, this group, as we know, may emphasize the importance of harmony and may ask the group that's been dominated to open up, and open up, that is, to their culture, to their way, and then they can unite, but they unite only within the context of the dominating cultural group. And of course, it never is actually like that. The group that's been dominated will resist and be angry and jealous, spiteful, and maneuvering until they can figure out a way to regain a power position. In a nutshell, that is much of the history of the world. If I were asked to summarize the history of the world, in a nutshell, I would say that's it. That's the essence of it. And everything else is pretty much commentary. a lot of commentary and a lot of details and a lot of history. And that's not the sole story. There are other stories, wonderful stories of bravery and love and affection. But in a fallen world, in a telestial world, where power is abused regularly by both individuals, groups, nations, societies, where power is abused regularly, in a nutshell, that is history of the world. And in this fallen world, in this telestial world, power is abused regularly. Surely we have all had the occasion to be struck by the terrible stories of groups of people who are different from each other, crossing each other's paths, encountering each other, and the genocide, the war, the terror that occurred. As a humankind, we are not very elegant. On the whole, we have never been very elegant in managing these situations and these cultural differences. It is a sad tale. Using President Hinckley's words once when visiting BYU Hawaii, he referred to the world and its history as a mean old world. And much of it is. And some of that involves us. We have to work through our own ethnocentrism. We have to come to grips with our lives and the position from which we make meaning, whether we are moving towards more or less ethnocentrism, our openness to others, and our ability to appreciate them. Boy, that rooster is much louder than it was before, I think. You remember the article you read on the power of hidden differences by Hall, Edward Hall. He did a lot of things in that article, but right towards the end of that article, he drew our attention to the power of hidden differences. And we've talked a little bit about that, but I want to draw our attention back to it for just a moment. One of the things when we think of things that are hidden away from us, that have power over us, there was a theorist in psychology named Freud, and probably his one lasting contribution. There's been a lot of critique and criticism of Freud, and appropriately so. But one of the things he drew our attention to that I think is lasting is the way in which we can experience trauma, and that trauma, years and years and many years later, can have influence over our emotions in a negative way. If we don't deal with the emotional trauma at the time of its occurrence, if we don't heal from it, the general idea is that it becomes part of us, but not so much a conscious part of us. It's not something that we think about, and we may, the idea is kind of a repression, and exactly how that works is arguable, or how repressed. But we can experience, for example, a childhood trauma, and never having healed from it, but having mostly forgotten it, it can resurface in negative ways in our lives, in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. And so it's kind of a hidden dimension to our experience. The emotions are hidden away. When we were a child, we didn't have the capacity to really deal with it or process it, perhaps. Children who have been sexually abused when they were very young can sometimes have these kinds of experiences. So when you want to help the person heal, what you do is you, when they're older, one form of help for them is to have them return to the origin of the trauma and confront it, see it, deal with it, process it, heal from it. But it involves taking something that is hidden and bringing it forward into the visible, into the conscious, as if though to take it and make it an object that one can look at and analyze and deal with, have it rather than be had by it. I suppose we all are like that in some ways. Certainly when we start to think about culture, we can be like that. That is, in our understanding of culture, it's something that has us more than we have it. It is, Hall's point was, it's very powerful, but it's very tacit, it's very hidden, it functions in the background. And as long as it does that, and we are subject to it in that way, our capacity to deal with the conflicts inherent to intercultural communication will be lessened. To the extent that we can have our culture rather than be had by it, we reposition ourselves in relationship to our own culture, and simultaneously in relationship to other people's cultures. And that opens avenues where we can coordinate with other people, where when this is the inclination, we can kind of step away and say, look back at our culture and look even differently at the other person's culture, and that looking at has a way of creating an openness to one another. Now, the video that you're about to watch is called Barbecue Area. The reason I wanted you to watch this video is because one form that this history of power and domination and intercultural conflict takes has been through the history of colonization and imperialism. And this is the story of Australia as a land that was colonized by the British. Now, what the producers did in the video is a classic move made when someone is trying to reveal the power and the power that is being used to dominate a cultural group. So the film is made by Aborigines in Australia, and they reverse roles with the British. They become the colonizers. They are the ones who sail up on British lands, and they are the ones who are imposing a worldview on the British. And it's a way of saying to the British, look and see the world from our point of view and what it feels like to be colonized. So it's an interesting video. It's always interesting to see how people respond to it. But I want you to watch it closely. Think about it carefully. Think carefully about the strategies that are used in the video. And think about the world at large in your history classes, when you read the newspaper, when you look at conflicts around the world, and even think about your own life. Think about situations in your interpersonal relationships, family, groups, community, where power is being used in a way to dominate rather than to orchestrate a coordination of people who are very different from each other. Okay, good luck with that. Again, we'll make that due on Wednesday by midnight instead of tonight. Thanks.